Welcome to WebRTC Live. In WebRTC Live, we cover the latest technical topics and business use cases for WebRTC and live video. As always, this episode is brought to you by WebRTC.Ventures, leading integrators of WebRTC video into your custom application.
Welcome back to WebRTC Live. I'm your host, Aaron Stein, founder and CEO of WebRTC.Ventures. WebRTC.Ventures is a custom design and development firm specializing in live video applications. And we're here to help you take your video application live. You can learn more about us at WebRTC.Ventures. For today's episode, I'm very happy to have back as a guest again, Tsahi Levent-Levi. Tsahi is a well-known WebRTC consultant who writes at bloggeek.me and also co-organizes the Crank Geek conferences. So he's joining us today to talk about a WebRTC CodeLab course he's launching. So thanks for joining us today, Tsahi.
Thank you, Aaron.
Always a pleasure to speak with you. Of course, you and I are generally always speaking remotely, and you and I both work remotely for the most part too, I think. But nonetheless, last time we talked was in October of 2019. It's now April 1st, 2020 when we're recording this. A lot has changed in the world since then. So before we get to your CodeLab course, I'd like to start with just hope you and your family are doing well. How is coronavirus affecting you and your work at this point?
Well, I'm stuck at home, which is usual for me. But now I've got also 2 kids and a wife that have moved totally digital, so I'm the IT guy, which I don't like. That's on the personal side of things. And then it started with a blitz of 1 or 2 days with a lot of calls and discussions, and then 2 weeks of silence, and now it's starting to come back. It seems like the projects and what I'm asked to do is slightly changing, and that's interesting.
So the projects are changing, meaning the type of work that is coming to you, and as a WebRTC consultant is changing. Tell me more about that if you can.
So most of the things that I do are usually long-term. People come and say, we want to re-architect stuff, we want to think differently on what we're doing, we need to think about differentiation, roadmap, things like that. Or we've got something in marketing to do. And now it's more, we've got a problem, a pain point, and we need to fix it yesterday because, well, we need to ramp up 2 times, 10 times the traffic that we had yesterday. So the whole discussions are changing and the priorities are changing as well. It's not, let's fix stuff, let's go and re-architect and build it all over again because we need to. This is what we have and we need to win with this thing. Right. So either don't mess up and don't interfere with that, or help us do that.
Yeah, that certainly makes sense, and definitely I've seen, as I'm sure you have on Twitter and social media, a lot of our friends in the WebRTC space talking about scaling up their services. A lot more people using video conferencing tools right now. I've seen Justin from Google and Lorenzo, Janice talking about scaling up and offering their services to more people. And there's a lot of rapid feature changes needed right now as people start to apply tools to new use cases. So that makes sense that you would see a lot of that too. And I'm going to try something out here we haven't tried in one of the WebRTC Live episodes before. I'm going to start a poll. So if you see that, our dear viewers, please respond to the poll question. I'm curious to know if your company or your clients are using WebRTC more now in the past due to coronavirus. And just simple yes, no question right now. Maybe we'll do some more sophisticated polling in the future. But tell me a little bit more, Tsahi, about any changes that you're seeing in industries. When we were talking before this, you talked about call centers, for example.
Yes, there are a few. Most of the calls that I have throughout weekends, which is really interesting, especially for companies in the US. This never happened to me. But now on, let's say, a weekly basis, I've got 2 or 3 different discussions with companies in the US, either in healthcare or education. And all of that is around, well, we're seeing an increase in our use, we need to go into a new market, we're going to release this and that. And these are the That's the two main industries that are seeing real growth out of the coronavirus situation. The funny thing is, some of them come to us because they need to do stress testing and test RTC. Some of them come to us because they need to put up monitoring, and some say, well, we wanted to do that, but now it's not the time. We need to onboard customers. So different companies make different decisions out of the same problem exactly.
Right, sure.
Now, the other thing that was really interesting was what's happening in contact centers. Okay, think about it. You had hundreds of people in a call center inside the same office building, office space. They're all sitting one next to each other, and now they're all quarantined at home. Okay, so contact centers are moving like in record time from on-premise to cloud, but also from cloud that is deployed to work in front of offices towards cloud that is deployed to work in front of homes.
Right.
And then you get a lot of different challenges around networks and networking and analyzing these networks and how you cope with that. So that's really interesting. So you see growth in SBCs that are trying to do WebRTC, or that offer WebRTC as part of the stuff that they do, or call centers that are changing the mix of their products to meet that demand.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Global society as a whole, you certainly see people talking about Zoom a lot more and using video conferencing at home for their standard work meetings, right? But it also highlights, I think, for people like us that a lot of the work that we do, it's more than a meeting tool. It's integrated into some other larger process. So certainly a call center, it's not just a video tool or a telephony tool. It's integrated into a complete workflow. And so the scale of the quarantines is causing people to take that workflow outside of the office. So definitely on our side at WebRTC.Ventures, I agree. We're seeing the biggest increase in the healthcare side and telehealth. That's an area that we've been working in the last few years. So the number of people contacting us about telehealth solutions has definitely gone up dramatically since you and I last spoke. We also launched a product, simplydoc.com, around that recently, and that's starting to attract attention also. But the nature of the conversation certainly is shifting to the biggest thing being that in the past we were talking with people about, could they use telehealth? Should they use it? Would they be paid for it? Would they be reimbursed for it from insurance companies? And it was a little bit of a longer term discussion. Now the conversations are completely flipped. In the US anyways, here a lot of the regulations are being loosened, at least temporarily, to encourage telehealth, and types of doctors that before were really not considering telehealth at all, like eye doctors and dentists, are now thinking about, they can't do everything over video, but can they incorporate it somehow? And the conversations with us are a little bit less about features and more about how quick can you deploy this because we need it right now. And then we'll come back later to those features. So like you were saying with your clients, it very much depends on the status of, that business. Were they already doing telehealth and now they're trying to scale it larger? Or did they just realize now that they have to do it? Maybe they were even avoiding it in the past and now they have to. So it's just quick, get to market as quick as possible, basically. So
yes. For me, the most interesting thing is with my boss, my wife. She's a Pilates teacher and a salsa dance teacher. And she goes like, how can I teach now? After 2 days like that, she goes, well, I see everyone's doing video. I need to do video as well. Yeah. So I start setting her up. She goes like, it's not the same. It's not the same quality. My clients are not going to want that, not willing to pay for that. And then she starts setting stuff up. Her customer on the other side for a Pilates lesson can't hear her well. So she says, well, I'm just going to call you by phone and see you with video. And she says, well, but it's not the same. She says, and then her customer says, I don't care. I just want to do something now. And I don't care if I see well, don't see well. It's like people are also getting into their minds that the experience is going to be different. Yeah. And again, we're in here in this house doing that for the last 2.5 weeks. My wife comes to me yesterday and says, you know what? I like it this way. not needing to go out to teach, not needing to go out to take lessons. I can take lessons on salsa from people in the US, in Singapore. Just join the lessons whenever I want. I know I'm free to do things.
Right.
I hope this stays when we are not quarantined anymore. So
yeah,
I think that in a lot of ways, things are going to be different on the other side of it.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think some of the, like the relaxed healthcare regulations I was talking about around HIPAA compliance, for example, some of those will come back after the quarantines pass, but the basic concept of, using remote video for anything from salsa lessons to telehealth visits, that people are going to be a lot more open to that now than they were in the past. So I think this is a very interesting time to be alive for sure. An interesting time also to be in the video industry. So I know some of the things we expected to see years from now, we're going to start to see immediately just because of these rapid societal changes. So that's let's segue from that to your CodeLab, because that also means there's a lot of other developers out there who are going to be looking to build WebRTC into their company's application, or maybe some new startup idea that they're coming up with while quarantined at home. Tell us, Tsahi, how are they going to learn how to build a good WebRTC app?
Okay, so the funny, we didn't start it, or this wasn't something that I started because of COVID, like a lot of other projects out there. It's something that I started before that. It's why I was speaking with Philip about for the last half a year of doing something like that, and at some point a month ago I said, let's do it. Let's go build something, do it, roll it out, and see what happens. So let me just share my screen. I actually prepared about 3 or 4 slides for this, and let's see if I get to the right place. Yes. Okay, so you see my slide?
Yes, it's loading now for me.
Yeah, magic. Okay, so what we did is this. I sat down with Philip and we said there is a problem. There is no good CodeLab out there for WebRTC. I'll get to that in a second. And the end result was, let's do a CodeLab and call it WebRTC, the missing CodeLab. Why? Because there are a lot of them, but none of them is really good. And the problem was this. Today, if you look at what exists, there are different CodeLabs, okay, that you can go and use for WebRTC. They're all either too old, like 2017, 2014 from Sam Datton, and a few that you can find in different websites for courses. None of them is working. They're all broken. They use all the APIs. They don't run anymore. They don't work on some of the browsers, these types of problems. Then you've got the other set of CodeLabs or examples, and these go with companies like PubNub or Pusher or Ably or Firebase, and they show how to use WebRTC with a certain messaging system that is managed for you, which is great, but they explain how to use the messaging service and not how to use WebRTC. So something there was missing. On the other end of it, what you've got is the WebRTC samples. So if you go to github.com/WebRTC/samples, you've got the WebRTC samples or /WebRTC samples. I don't remember the exact URL. They're very good. They're well maintained. They show a lot of examples of how to do things with WebRTC, but there's nothing that take you from one end to the other, from doing a sample to a working proof of concept to an application. Okay, and that gap is something that we decided that we want to fill. And we decided that the best way to fill that would be, well, a CodeLab. And then the idea of a CodeLab came, and we said, what do we want to do with that? Do we only want to write the code and give it away, put some explanations in there, do a long form post with all of the data? And, well, we're doing stuff with video, WebRTC and stuff, so we decided to do a recording of lessons and to do it kind of live, all the work that we were doing. And the reason was, again, that you don't have up-to-date WebRTC code that works. And wanted to have something that is up-to-date from 2020. It's forward-looking because we know how browsers are going to change stuff in the next half a year to a year. and we also wanted something that we can easily change and update. Okay. So as I said, we started building this CodeLab. The work was done by me and Philip Henke. For those who don't know, Fippo probably knows the most about WebRTC, the APIs, how to use it. He found the most amount of bugs on WebRTC in Chrome. And it's fun to work with, at least for me. So Fippo sat down, he wrote the actual signaling server with Node.js, the client side with HTML. We made it simple. We decided what to add and what not to add, what were the important parts that we wanted to talk about. And we came around in a structure of a course that started with, let's do a walkthrough. Okay, so there's a code. It's available on GitHub. There's a URL for that that you can just go on my GitHub account. It's almost the only thing on my GitHub account. So the code is there. You can go and download it. But then there's the whole explanation, which is a kind of an over-the-shoulder, where what we do is we pick a different piece of the puzzle when it comes to the code and do an explanation on that. And it goes like, Philip comes, he shows something and asks questions, he answers. So it's kind of interactive. And the intent was not only to give the person on the other side the impression that, well, here's the knowledge and go copy-paste pieces of code. It's not only how to do stuff, what to do, but how and why. Why we do the things that we do in the CodeLab in the way that we do them. Why do we call the APIs in this order and why not in a different order? So we go into these details, and this is the part that is most important in this specific CodeLab and the things that we do there. So we've got the walkthrough in about, I think, 12 lessons or so. The second part that we've built was the exercises. Okay, so we've decided to put things in a CodeLab and then leave about, I think, 6 or 7 different tasks as exercises to the people taking the CodeLab. And these are built out of 2 parts. There is an explanation of what needs to be done and why it needs to be done. Then we leave the person to go and try to build it out on his own. And then we offer again the additional parts or the additional code that goes into the CodeLab and the solution, why we got there in the same over-the-shoulder manner that we're doing the other things. The last part that we have is a kind of a resources library that we have of things that are not covered in the CodeLab itself. What, like, not traversal, how it works and why, and different media words that we throw out, like jitter and latency and packet loss, and why they're important. They're not part of the CodeLab, but we're important to explain. And we ended up with a kind of a walkthrough that looks like this. There is a preparation, running the sample, how to get the code and start running it. And then we go into a walkthrough of the code. We explain the signaling, why we're doing that from the client side, the server side. How do you set up stun? We left turn as an exercise, for example. And then we go to things like muting and unmuting and doing screen sharing and hanging up, going through the different connection states, looking at get stats and working on that. And we've got something that I think I'm very proud of what we got or where we got with the CodeLab. It wasn't easy to do, but it was a lot of fun, really.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, and you and Fippo are definitely the right people to do that and to keep it up to date. Definitely appreciate that. As the author myself of one of those older broken courses, I'd like to thank you for making something more up to date that people can use. We're not always able to keep some of those older code samples that we've done up to date. So it's great to see, especially since so much has changed in the last few years, and there's so much more compatibility. Maybe not perfect, but so much stronger compatibility across the browsers, and so this is a great time for that, and definitely much needed in the developer community as a whole. So where do people go to sign up for that?
That's on WebRTCcourse.com.
WebRTCcourse.com.
Yes, there are a bunch of courses there. One of them is for support, the others are for developers, and one of the courses for developers is the CodeLab.
Excellent. Great. All right. I should follow up on our poll from earlier, and we had 59% of respondents say that you or your clients are using WebRTC a lot more now than in the past due to coronavirus, and 41% of you saying nope, same as before, no change for you. I think in our audience for this, that makes sense because many of us were living on video already. So no doubt 40% of us, we were working from home before, we were working remotely now, same difference in many ways. But certainly, as we see, and I'm sure many of you also see, our clients are shifting to this world that we've been in a lot longer, basically. So that's great. Thanks everyone for joining us today. And Tsahi, thanks again for joining us here. Love having you on WebRTC Live and keeping in touch with you in general. Everybody definitely should keep up with you at bloggeek.me, as well as WebRTC courses for the WebRTC CodeLab with you and Fippo. Anything else that you want to say before we head out today?
Wash your hands.
Wash your hands after watching this webinar, please. We both washed our hands before starting it. So yeah, stay safe, everybody. Let's take it live. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for joining us for WebRTC Live. Visit our website at WebRTC.ventures to learn more about our custom design and development services, and to learn more about upcoming episodes of WebRTC Live.